This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
Hey, what up, everybody? Welcome to the Okayest Hunter podcast, coming at you from the Okayest Hunter podcast studio. I feel like the name's a little redundant. Maybe I should change that or something. Anyway, we're here in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, broadcasting live to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and now also TikTok. And hopefully people on TikTok can hear me. I can't tell because I can't see that far because I'm getting old. But I'm using my phone for that. So anyway, hopefully that's working. Want to do a shout out to our sponsors here. Our presenting sponsor, the big name on the screen if you're watching live, is Spartan Forge. I should have an update from them next week about some of the updates they're doing for their application. That should be dropping, and then you can get an app update from the App Store. So that'll be next Tuesday. It'll be a good one. It'll be fun. But if you haven't heard of those guys, check them out, SpartanForge.ai. You can get a 25% discount by using our podcast code, which is just OHP. Stands for Okayest Hunter Podcast. Shout out to Drop Time Spirits for keeping us. I'm going dry in the studio here. I haven't had that in a little bit. It's really delicious. And Latitude Outdoors, they're friends of ours, and so is Backwoods Grind Coffee. We don't have a discount code for Latitude. I should probably check with them and see if they want to get us one. And Backwoods Grind is OHP for 10% off your subscription. Anywho, any updates? I don't know that I have updates. I don't think so. Put this bottle here so those guys can see it. This one here. I don't know what I'm doing. Greg is not in studio. I've been sick perpetually for 3 weeks. Our kids are still puking. It's just been every day cleaning up puke in beds at night. Mainly my wife, by the way. And Derek was sick, so just decided to keep everyone out of the house. So you're just looking at me tonight, and we do have a guest with us. So I'm going to bring him on in just a moment. That's Justin Synan. And I hope, Justin, I got your name right. You can tell me. I know you can hear me.
Yeah, you got it right, brother.
Yeah, all right. I always get so worried because I've messed up so many names over the last, decade.
Yeah, I'm totally used to it. I feel like half the people that say my name butcher it. So you did good.
Cool. Well, welcome to the Okayest Hunter podcast. I think you and I were both at ATA, but I don't know that I actually had the opportunity to meet you there. And I know you also talk with Greg on social, like everybody does. So,
right,
Greg, he's a slut.
Oh man,
he's not here at the moment. He joined us virtually, but I'm not going to bring him in until I see his face. He's not there.
I appreciate you having me, brother. It's great to be on here. I listen to you guys a lot. Always get a good laugh whenever I'm listening. Oh, there he is.
There he is, old gray beard.
What's up?
What's up? I don't know why, but you guys sound really quiet on this phone, so I got to see if I can find some earphones.
Yeah, it's probably your phone's fault. I don't know. Our audio looks good over here, so.
No, it's definitely on my end.
Yeah, classic. You're an old man. You got to figure out how to work the technology.
Thanks.
You let us know when you're ready, Greg.
No, keep talking.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then
you don't need to wait for me. Keep talking. Do what you do best.
Justin, I want you to introduce yourself because you'll do it better than I ever could. Go ahead and take it away. I could do it a little bit. I'll just let you do it, man.
I got you. Well, like I said, appreciate you guys having me. My name's Justin Synan. I'm actually filming with Whitetail Addictions and with Lone Wolf Custom Gear. This will be my third season with them. Had an episode last year that dropped from a public land buck I killed. And looking forward to the episode from this year. I actually was lucky enough to kill my biggest buck to date, which was part of my goal for this year, something at least in the 150s or bigger, and got super blessed. I totally underestimated the size of this buck, and he ended up going 165. But score's just a number. I'm not really one of those guys that's hardcore to the number. It's all about having fun and just loving the outdoors. But I moved here to Kentucky. Right now I'm in West Central Kentucky, and I moved here 2 years ago from Maryland. And we just wanted to have some freedom, more freedom, bigger bucks, of course. And, just wanted to raise our kids a little bit differently. I was way more fast-paced life in Maryland than it is here. And we love it. I mean, it's awesome, man. I don't regret it for 1 second. I miss my friends and family, but it's been great just moving and having like a fresh start, and people here are awesome. So, and there's some big deer. So it's all around great.
So ATA must have been easy for you to get to, being right in Kentucky, because there was some inclement weather that Thursday and people were driving in, the stories I've heard.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, man. I actually had to pick my mom up from the airport that Friday, like when it started, and it was nuts. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It took us 4 hours to get home. Usually, like, Louisville is an hour and a half from my house. So, yeah, I was not enjoying that whatsoever. But my wife and I, we went on Saturday, and we had a blast. It was my first year at the ATA, so I had a great time. So cool being able to just walk around and see all the people that you see on TV and on YouTube. And most of the guys are super cool. It was kind of mind blowing that, most of the guys will give you the time of day, and like, just can't wait to go back next year. I hope they have it again. Like, I heard word that they were getting rid of it.
I didn't hear that. I think people were just weird that some folks dropped out. I think it made for a more productive show. I heard similar things about SHOT, and they're not going anywhere.
Right.
But to that point, man, like, if you're in Louisville, are you drinking bourbon all the time? Are you smoking McEwen? Like, that's got to come with the culture, right?
Yeah, totally, man. Honestly, when I was younger, I drank a lot of wild turkey and stuff, and I kind of got away from it. And coming here, it's like a lot of my buddies are like, well, you either drink moonshine or you're drinking bourbon. One of the two. So it's good. I mean, actually, right now I'm kind of taking a little hiatus and trying to get back in shape, lose this beer belly, and hit it hard for next year. I really want to be in a little bit better shape than I was this year. So
there you go. I mean, rounds of shape if we're being technical. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Yeah.
How you want to position your argument. So you're doing a little bit of stuff. Did you hang out at the Lone Wolf Custom Gear booth while you were there, or were you there with those guys? Because I know talk about a little bit what you're doing with those guys. Because I'm running the Lone Wolf Custom Gear double steps, double sticks. I'm running their saddle platform, and I'm running their pack, the green pack. I don't know what it's called because I don't know anything about gear.
The Wolf Pack.
Dude, it's nice.
Isn't it awesome, dude? I mean, honestly, that thing helped me so much. I guess you're running the ambush platform. Is that what you're doing?
Yep. It's a larger one. I know the new one isn't out yet. So once that one does come out, I'm going to get my hands on that. Because my goal is to put it inside of the bag.
Right. I am running the exact same setup you have. This whole season, I ran 3 of the 17-inch sticks, and I had the cable waders on them. And, I mean, you can't beat it, man. I honestly, like, I can't speak. And it's not just because I'm on their team. I literally, like, truly believe that's some of the best gear out there. And I'm just honored to be a part of the team with these guys. And they're all great guys. I got to meet a few people that I haven't met before at ATA, and everybody was super cool. Just kind of humbled because, for me, I kind of feel like I'm like, I know I'm not a newbie, but it's just like, for filming, and you see these guys and they're knocking down like booners, consistently. So for me, I'm just looking to learn stuff, and that's kind of the coolest thing for me. And it's taking their approach to it is just one of the, it just seems like every year I'm picking up more and more and more from these guys. So it's all around good.
Yeah, I think they got a good crew. The products are the big differentiator that I see and understand from them is the systematized approach to things.
Right.
Some of their products tend to really work well together.
Yeah.
And I just, it seemed nice to have these things that lock in, that's low profile. It all fits. Like, it was just really easy. That's kind of what I was after. Otherwise, I just tend to be, Murphy's Law, man. Anything that can go wrong for me will go wrong.
Exactly, man. I mean, I've had some of my buddies like bitch about the price of it. And I'm like, dude, you got people out here spending how much on a Sitka outfit, right? You can't spend like you can't spend like that money one time and buy quality hunting gear that you're going to use all year round. I mean, it just makes sense. And I mean, hell, even if you didn't like something, you could turn around and sell it for the exact same price you paid for it. And I mean, I can't say there's that many products out there you could do that with, but it's like they just can't produce it fast enough.
Yeah, no, they have that's demand. It's good that they have that. It shows that they have a quality product. Greg just flipped me off. I told him I won't bring it back on until he sits still. It's too distracting. Walking all over his damn house.
I know. I was wondering. I'm like, are you in your garage, dude?
He's everywhere. He's just got to sit. Greg, when you sit still, I'll bring you back in. It's not even being mean. It's too much going on. It's hard to focus. You have some respect for the listener. I forget which comedian said that, but so okay, then you move from Maryland to Kentucky. We talked a little bit about that, and you talked about how it's like a slower, pace for lifestyle stuff, and you're obviously valuing your time outdoors and hunting, and you have little ones. So, what has that transition been like, both from just lifestyle wise, but also has it been like a big learning curve from like terrain and how the deer are moving and where the public parcels are and all of that stuff?
Yeah, it's well, for one, like our life's just so much cooler. We live right near a lake, so summer times are so much more enjoyable. We get to go out on the lake with the kids and eat dinner out on the water, and it's definitely a lot more fun. The winter time for me, it's like it transitions from lake life to hunting life, right away, and then it's like you said with the terrain, it's totally different than what I was going in. I mean, Maryland is kind of like mini America, where you can go on the east side and you're in marsh and sand and like just flat ground. And then where I lived was about like mid North Maryland, and it's like, hill country. And then you can go all the way west and it's just mountains like West Virginia and, East Kentucky. But the woods here are just so thick, man. And for a bow hunter in the woods, it's just like a game changer because, you're in this area, like I know there's good deer around this kind of area, but the woods are so much more vast. And it's like, where am I going to narrow down and where am I actually going to even get a shot at a deer out in here? And, that's been like the biggest challenge. And I kind of got lucky this past year. I met some people and got permission on a nice sized farm, and that really helped out. I mean, so I had the farm. I tried to leave the farm alone, unless like there was something big in there, and I just hunted public. And that's kind of my thing with around here for a bow hunter. The public land is not near as hammered as it is like where I came from. So that makes a big difference. I think if you can find a good buck on public, and usually you got to walk a good ways. I mean, the woods around here are pretty big, but there's good deer to be had on public ground. I don't want to say too much, but it's one of those things that I'm super blessed that I live near a lot of public parcels, and I also have a nice private property to hunt also.
You sound like a Kentucky version of Greg. Heating and cooling, public in your backyard, access to a farm.
Yeah.
Greg's beard might be a little bit better, but are you finally situated over there, big guy?
Yeah, until the dog tees off. I'm home with the dog. My wife will be home here shortly, and as soon as she does pull in, the dog will go nuts, I'm sure. But so
I'll just mute you when that happens and kick you back off.
That's fine.
But I'm glad you're here for a little bit. You guys are the reason that you're on well, not necessarily, but like Greg, you were talking to Justin on social because you're such a social butterfly out there on the gram.
Right. That's right. Me.
I know. I was telling Eric, I'm like, I don't know how we started talking. I really don't even remember, but maybe it was just like the HVAC.
Yeah, it might have been something with the HVAC, and you and I started chatting about it and whatnot. And then obviously we both share a passion for hunting and the outdoors and fishing and whatnot. So
yeah,
we just started chatting about it.
Well,
that's how it goes. So you meet like-minded people by talking. If you don't talk to people, how do you get to know them?
Oh, for sure, man.
You gotta be willing to take a chance. That's just it.
Yeah, I hear you. Have you ever had any bad experiences with meeting people online?
I've had a couple. a couple bad experiences, but so far the positives have much outweighed the negative.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, me too, man. I have not had. There's a couple yahoos here and there that'll comment this or that, the other thing. It's like, man, really?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
as
man,
much
I
as-
feel like most people that are really into hunting, like obviously we can relate to it, but it's like, I don't know. If I want to say like we're just a different breed than most of us all have the same passion and like different work ethic. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's why pretty much anybody, it's like a decent person that's into hunting, like I could sit and talk to any day.
Yeah. One of the comments that just came through from Nico, a friend of ours over at the hunt, said he usually stalks for a few weeks before meeting people.
Yeah.
It's like, who's this guy?
Nico knows how abnormal we are, so it's all good.
I get a lot of friend requests on Facebook, and
yeah,
that one's interesting because I don't know who half these people are, and there's personal stuff on there, but I don't know. That one is an interesting topic to navigate, but that's neither here nor there. I think to your point about the Kentucky being really thick terrain, and that's not too dissimilar from here in Wisconsin. I don't know what the public tracks are like there, but when I was in Kentucky, it doesn't look that different. It's still Midwest. It's still.
It really depends on where you're at, man. I guess I would say around here it's more thick because there's so much more like select cuts that go on in the woods around here. There's a lot of timber, and I think that's what creates like such a thick woods. But then, you still got field edges and, you've got open hardwoods if you got a place that hasn't been cut. So it's really just finding the niche. Like where I killed my buck last year was a direct transition from open hardwoods to thick hardwoods. And these deer would just work this ridge and just do like a J hook right across from where the thick was to the open. And I mean, me and a buddy set up. I actually was going to let him kill the deer that I shot. And because I had passed on him, which was crazy. I mean, he was like a mid 140 class buck, but I just didn't want to shoot him. It was like early October. It was my first year hunting here. So I was like, man, I definitely want to hunt the rut. We only got one buck tag. So I was a little bit on the fence, like, all right. And I literally let him go like 5 yards. And then I was like, oh shit. Like, did I just mess up? Like, oh no. And then I look back at the footage and I'm like, yeah, that's a stud. So my friend came in and I'm like, dude, I know exactly what tree we're going to use, get into. It's a split tree. The wind's cutting right down the ridge. Like, it's going to be perfect. And I mean, he completely read the script. He just stopped, made his scrape 15 yards, and I plugged him.
That's awesome when that happens. I don't know.
No, right? It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's like, it was so cool. Have you ever shot a deer with a friend in the tree?
Not yet. I mean, almost with Greg. I almost was going to.
You almost shot a hunter, let's be honest.
That was
no.
Hey, buddy. Yes. Greg was like,
oh, bird
this guy is so mad.
Well, I hope it happens for you two, honestly, because there's no better feeling than just having that go down and your buddy there, because just being able to share it, is awesome.
I usually am hunting with someone, just not directly necessarily. Like my dad's been around and he's showed up, and Greg was around when I missed that 8-pointer a couple of years ago, and I called him thinking, let's go take a look and see what happened here. But it almost happened,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. For him, he's kind of like a newer, not that he's a new bow hunter, but he's a little bit just getting into it more. And I was like, well, hey, it's our first evening. If we're going to get on this deer, I'm going to film it. So, he comes in and he's got all this, he's got a whole tree in his rack. So my buddy's like, there's a big buck. I'm like, you're full of shit. He's like, no, there's a big buck. Look. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, are you going to shoot it? He's like, no, you're going to shoot it. I'm like, oh, all right, game one. Say no more. I'll shoot him. But no, it was so cool. And then just to get it all on film was icing on the cake. It was really sweet.
Our buddy Ryan from Deers and Beers just said group hunting is the best, side by side with a buddy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun to have time with someone in a tree like that. It's less boring. I hunted with our friend Mitch Baker over the doe hunt here in Wisconsin, and there's probably a good reason we didn't see any deers, because the two of us were talking to each other the whole damn time, sharing stories. stuff.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. It's kind of tough, especially when you're like two good buddies that'll just have each other cracking up the whole time. So we had a little bit of that, and then we just got lucky, and he ended up coming right down the ridge, and my buddy saw him right away. So we knew to shut up when we saw him.
Good, man. So I know the topic that I wanted to get into here, and I think maybe we can transition out and see where it goes. But, you mentioned to me that there's a lot of lessons from the woods, from hunting, that translate into just life in general. Maybe that's parenting, maybe that's work ethic, maybe that's spiritual, whatever those things are. I'm curious to hear your perspective on it, because you brought up. So I tend to agree with you before I even know what you're saying. So I'd love to hear kind of what you're thinking about that stuff.
Yeah, for me, I've always wanted to talk about that on a podcast, just because I don't really get to tell that many people about that aspect of things. Most people that know me just know that I love hunting, and I'm quote unquote obsessed. But it's one of those things. At a young age, I got into bow hunting when I was 15 or 16. But then when I graduated high school, I got really into wanting to kill a big buck with my bow. And man, I had so many struggles. I wasn't as good of a shot. I was okay, and it was one of those things where, yeah, you like that? And it was one of those things where I was really good at just picking trees. I kind of knew that we had good deer that were close to us, and it was kind of a struggle. So we started hunting in a really, really good area on the Eastern Shore. And anybody that knows Maryland knows the Eastern Shore is where a lot of our biggest deer come from. And we lost the farm when I was probably 13 or 14. So my dad kind of got discouraged and just was like, oh, well, I'm just going to give up on trying to kill a big buck because there's not big bucks around here. And I discovered suburban bow hunting where there is a lot of big bucks that were within a half hour of our house. So I started knocking on doors and came across, some of these places that backed up to bigger parcels of woods that nobody could hunt. So of course there's more mature deer in those kind of areas. Well, I was always really good at catching them on the rut because I understood funnels and I understood hey, there's bound to be something big that'll come through here eventually. Well, after my first year of really getting into it, I made a few mistakes and it really just ate me up really bad. So, I think I missed a 170 class buck. I shot right underneath of him, and I just beat myself up so much. And the next year, what I did all summer was just shoot my bow religiously. I got dialed in to shooting my bow really well. And the next year I killed my first big buck with a bow, which is probably 120s or something. It, to me, was a giant at the time. I was stoked. And 2 weeks later, I killed the biggest buck of my life at that point, which was almost 160. And the coolest thing was I met my wife because of killing this deer. She liked it on Facebook and, the fairy tale hunter love story.
Or some girl like my buck. This is I'm gonna make a meme about that.
Yeah, it really was. It was really wild. But I mean, honestly, it just really taught me that if you really love something and you put the effort into it, it'll happen. And as time went on, I would have struggles where I just wasn't getting on deer, and I knew you put the time in, and it's going to happen. And it just happened every year. And a lot of my buddies were like, dude, how are you, what are you doing? How are you killing these big deer? And it was persistence, and it just transferred into life. As far as if you want something, you need to be willing to do something extra, do what other people aren't doing. And that was basically one of the biggest life lessons that came to me. And then I just, started looking at life a little bit differently, and always had the passion for hunting, but it transfers into a lot of things in life. It's if you really care about something and you want it that bad, you're going to get it if you put in the time and the effort and do what you need to do and do the right things.
Yeah. I think patience is a big one. Some people want to, take over the world overnight, or they want to eat an elephant in one bite. And I think, I'm definitely the kind of person that'll, bite off more than I can chew and just find a way to get it down anyways. But, you can eat an elephant one bite at a time. You can take over the world, if you plot and scheme and you chip away at it and you play the long game. So patience has been a big one for me, because even where we're at with this podcast today, we're still nowhere where I think I want to go with it. But if I were to contrast that to, go back to episode 1 or 2, we'd be lucky to have like 30 listeners or something like that. And, we'd have all the stuff or whatever. If you stick with some, you talk about persistence, but persistence over time with most things, like you think about your career, your family, all of those things, like life is long. It goes on for a long time.
Right.
And, maybe I won't get a 160 next year or the year after that, because I'm busy raising a family right now and running businesses. But give me some time and up to apply all this knowledge, and at some point I'm willing to bet that I'm pretty sure I could make it happen.
Yep. And then it gets to the point of understanding, like, you're not going to kill a big deer where there isn't one living. You know what I mean? I think understanding that at a younger age, like, just figuring out, like, okay, well, there's not really that many big deer at my house where my parents grew up, because everybody shoots everything. So what do I need to do? I need to go find a place where mature deer actually are, or where they're around. You're not going to kill them if you're not where they're at, and then it just gets more into you like, for you guys, you talk to so many people that kill huge deer all the time. I mean, what are they doing? A lot of us are doing the same thing. You hear the same thing over and over again, like hunt the wind, watch your access,
scout around people is the one I've heard most consistently, and separating yourself from people, using water, and you're like, wind is a big one. There's a lot of like keystones that exist there. We talk about hunting a mature deer. I'm only just now starting to actually make sense of it all and apply it. It takes a long time to synthesize that information, put in action, actually see some results.
Right.
That's how it is with anything. There's a learning curve. You don't just invent the wheel overnight. You got to get from here to there.
That's what I was saying with, like, it transitions into life. Like, I may have been really lucky to live where I did, to be able to pursue the deer that I was pursuing. But it's like, just like anything, if you want something, you need to do something. You're not going to just get it. You know what I mean? Like, you can keep hunting that same back 40 at your parents' house. I'm not saying you can't kill a huge deer. It's like, it's chance. But if you want to up your odds, go hunt somewhere where you're actually, have a better chance of doing it, where there's more.
I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan, for everyone that knows, and most people do. And he uses a pretty simple analogy for a lot of things. But one of them is, if you want to get fit, or if your goal is to look buff or whatever, or lose weight, you can't just think it into fruition. You got to go do some push-ups. Like, you got to go do something about it. And your actions have to match your ambitions. If your ambitions are to get a big buck, then your actions need to back that up. Like you said, you spent the whole year shooting your bow. Those are actions that match to your ambition of doing that action. If your ambitions are to just fill your freezer, that's totally great. And your actions probably don't need to be nearly as hefty.
Right.
It's just an alignment of those two things. I think, again, this is a good topic for me, man. I think there's lessons in the stuff that,
for sure,
all over the place, and vice versa.
Yeah. And then, I mean, if you want another good thing that I've kind of come to pick up is, a lot of guys are really worried about the size of their deer instead of enjoying the outdoors. And I mean, for me, like, I'm a meat hunter at heart. Like, don't get me wrong. I want some back straps for summertime, not just the wintertime. And I used to kill like 10 to 12 deer a year. Now I come here and I'm only allowed to kill 4. So I gotta spare it out a little bit. I try not to eat too much of it. But I mean, I kind of came from that background where my dad and I were like, well, if it's brown, it's down today, boys. We're bringing home some bacon. And now I'm more of the, oh yeah. And now I catch myself. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? There's a doe at like 15 yards. Why don't you shoot it? But it's just a little bit different. Hunting here, I feel like I have like more reserve, where I'm like, oh, there's a big deer that might come in. I'm still kind of at that spot, but there is days where it's like, all right, if it's brown, it's down. Well, except for bucks, I'm not shooting a little buck here. I mean, but
No, you got to do whatever it is that makes you happy and aligns with your goals. I mean, especially on the meat front. I mean,
right.
Greg, you did pretty good this year. You got a couple does again, and you got a buck.
Well, I try to do good every year. You know, and my version of good might not align with other people's, but my version of good is if I can get at least 2 does in the freezer, or 1 doe in the freezer and a buck in the freezer, which is what happened this year. Last year was 2 does, and didn't shoot anything with the gun, but I don't really care about that so much. I don't know. I've been on a roll probably the past 8 years where I can get at least 2 deer or more with my bow. And gun, if I get one with the gun, it's kind of an added bonus. I'm usually with a group of guys, and we're just bouncing around public land to public land and doing little pushes and trying to find some deer for the guys that don't get to bow hunt. Try to help them get a deer in the freezer.
Yep. Like Fred Bear said, a bow hunter will learn more in 1 day of hunting than a gun hunter learns in a year. Or I forget. That's probably not exact. Sorry,
No,
Fred.
it all compounds. You spend more time, in the woods as a bow hunter because the season's longer. You have more opportunities maybe to get out here and there. Gun hunting, like maybe a weekend or a week if you're lucky. With that,
right.
The kind of PTO whatever, so.
You get to learn a lot more, and you have to hunt a deer a lot differently because you got to get close to them. It's not like you can just sit your ass on the edge of a field and shoot something, 100, 200 yards away.
Yeah, if I had a gun in my hands for every time I had a bow, I'd have a lot more dead deer, is my guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we can all relate to that. But, I mean, come on, you got to admit, like, it's so much more fun being able to have a good buck in bow range. I mean, for me personally, it's like it just doesn't get any better.
Howdy, guys.
What's up, Derek?
It's just
doing?
A free-for-all. Derek, meet Justin. Justin, Derek.
What's up, Justin? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, brother.
We're going ham on the mic. I keep having to mute Greg. I feel bad. I don't want to mute you, but
well, no, you don't. You shouldn't have to. Now the dog's done barking at things, and the cat is finally shut up.
Well, my kids will be barking in a few minutes. I know I'm down here, so it's not going to take long. Like a ticking time bomb.
We're just talking about life lessons, that translate from deer hunting and life and lessons from life that go back in. Or wait, am I saying that right? Deer hunting lessons that go into life, and life lessons that go into deer hunting, and the relationship between those two things. Talk about perseverance over time. Just kind of recapping here a little bit since you popped in, and for anyone that was zoning out in the car or listening to this in podcast land, check back in. But, and everyone's goals are different too. And that's with everything. Maybe you have career goals that are more pressing, or maybe family goals that are more pressing. So hunting can't always be the most important thing. And maybe it is, Right. I think, Derek, you were saying as a younger man, we were talking about shed hunting. You were out there constantly, and now you're just not, because that's just the season of life that you're in.
Yeah.
I'm with Derek.
Yeah. I mean, you know how it is when you're young and driven and that bug bites you hard at a young age. And you time to pour into something, man. You ask anybody I used to work with, and it was like that was just what I did. And like they're like, "Oh, Derek, he doesn't fish much. Like he just hunts all year long. That's all he's doing." And life changes, and you roll with the punches, and that's definitely the boat that I think a lot of us find ourselves in. Is time changes, and you just allocate the same little pie chart of time in different ways, and that's kind of the fun part.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's life. I'm with you, dude. I mean, I used to shed hunt on my lunch breaks. I mean, it was just like any time I could get in the woods, I was out there.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. The family is the biggest change. It's hard to, like, your actual identity changes. The moment you have your first kid, you become a dude to a dad. And it's kind of like when you get a girlfriend, you're like, I have a girlfriend. This is my girlfriend, me and my girlfriend. And then you get engaged, like, this is my fiance. Oh, yeah, fiance. Then you get married, like, this is my wife. Like, you go through these seasons of life where your identity changes. So, like, but you're a hunter through all of that. I have been, at least. I've been a hunter since before I met my wife, fiance, girlfriend. Before I had kids, became a dad. Like, hunting is the throughput, and I'm thoroughly excited to pass that tradition on to my kids. Like, and look at the memories that will be made then. You talked about, it sometimes it really is about the memory and the experience. And I think that's a big deal for us for sure. And shooting whatever it is that makes you happy. And if it happens to be a 140, a 160, or 170, then do that. That's great.
Right.
Hopping
That's
out of
what. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I feel like everybody. Excuse me. Everybody has like this kind of. Some guys have this stigma where like, oh well, yeah, well, you should have given him another year. I mean, okay. Does that deer make that guy happy? Well, then, like, by all means, that's what hunting is about to me. Like,
yeah, I mean, what are we doing? Are we trying to make hunting fun for all, or are we just trying to make hunting good for that one person that maybe they're a bit more selfish than the rest? And I might have hurt some feelings by saying that, but
well, who cares?
Don't be a selfish bastard. I mean, there's enough out there for everyone,
right?
And we can all learn to work together, or just learn how to work a little harder to get what you want.
That's the thing that really, like, I think upsets me is, like, even as like a diehard bow hunter, like, it doesn't really upset me that much. Like, I don't really like crossbows, but I'm not gonna like bash a dude that's just getting into hunting and gets a crossbow. Like,
right.
By all means, if you're more efficient with a crossbow and you're gonna kill stuff instead of wounding it, like, that's awesome. When I started bow hunting, I mean, I wounded a lot of shit. It was bad. I mean, should I have been out in the woods? Yeah, I could shoot a target, but like understanding that shooting a deer and shooting a target are two different things, and I think a lot of guys that might not have a mentor or something like that would be better off with a crossbow because it's easier for them to, settle a pin or however, the scope, I guess. I don't know. I'm out of the loop on crossbows nowadays. Calling them pins.
No, I think you're spot on with that, and it's I mean, you hear people say that all the time, and I've said that to guys, friends starting out, like, shooting a target is different than shooting a deer, and like that's just like words when you hear that the first time, but then the first time you shoot at a deer, you're like, holy shit, what did it like? Well, how did that just happen?
Like, where the hell was my pin at when I shot that thing? You know what I mean?
Close my eyes. What happened? I blacked out.
Yeah, or yanking the trigger or pushing the bow to the side to see where your arrow went when you're done. I mean, like that's kind of where I was going with like the whole life lesson thing. It's like it was a constant struggle, and a lot of people give up. I think like Eric was saying, it's like they want that instant gratification. Like, hey, I watched all these YouTube videos and it looks easy, but when you put yourself in that situation and you've been waiting all season and a stud comes in at like 15 yards and you've never drawn your bow back on a big deer, like it's a game changer. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of had to get control of myself. And like, I always tell myself, like, don't mess up. Like you're only going to get one chance at a big deer. That's what I always said to myself every year. You're going to get one chance and that's it. And sometimes you get more than one chance, but if you can focus on that and then you like mentally prepare yourself for that one shot and make it count, your odds of success are gonna go so much higher. But you can't recreate that experience. Like, I don't care what you do, there's no training for it. It's just time in the woods, and you have to make mistakes. And you have to make mistakes in life.
I'm gonna tell you, there is training for it. It's called shooting deer. That's your best training.
I'm with you.
Shoot deer. I mean,
and a lot
like
of people don't want to shoot does, which I don't understand.
For me, that honestly, I shot a lot of does, partially because the properties I had, there was a ton of does, and I only had so much time. So it's like, yeah, I want to hold out for a big buck, but
those are deer
I also
too.
don't. Those are deer too. I haven't shot a lot of deer, so guess what? I'm going to take advantage of that situation. And I'm going to just start shooting does. I mean, that one property, the first year I was out there, I shot 4 does off that property. It was an urban property. And the landowner, it was funny, I passed on a spiker, and the homeowner texted me. I'm in the stand. The spiker is right below me, like darn near licking my boot prints right off the ladder stick. And I get a text message as that buck turns and walks, away from me. Are you going to shoot that one? And I'm like, no, I'm not shooting that one, too small. Oh, you got to shoot that one. That one's up here rubbing all over my maple tree. Well, I'm not filling my $1 tag on that little guy. I'm gonna let him grow because I know there's bigger ones here.
Yeah,
But,
I've been there, man. I gotta say that's one thing with suburban is it's so great for somebody that's like kind of starting because you're gonna get close shots for one, and you're gonna be able to get a lot of doe tags filled because most people you get permission from are like, I hate deer, kill them all.
Yeah, well, in my situation, like I was on probably a 6 or 7 year hiatus of not shooting deer because my job pretty much took me right out of deer hunting.
Okay.
It just didn't happen. So I got permission from this lady just because I was there working on her HVAC equipment every spring and fall. And it worked out perfect. Oh, you got a deer problem? I might know somebody that knows how to, or that's willing to kill deer.
Yep.
Well, let me talk to my husband. Man. Yeah, and lo and behold, I got the permission, and it was great, and I got some pretty fun stories from it. But I learned how to shoot deer at that property because of the volume of deer, and because literally it was like 20 minutes away from the shop. I'd get done from the shop, drop my apprentice off, and run out there. I had all my stuff in the back of the truck. It was funny. I had a homeowner looking in the back of my truck. Is that a bow case? No, it's not. It's holding all my gauges and this and that. Oh, well, that's cool if it is. I like you. You're all right.
Yeah.
Well, the old adage, the years teach us what the days never knew. There's going to be, if you look at the stock market, the graph, over a long period of time, it's either going up or going down or whatever. You zoom in on like a bad year, like the Great Recession or something, it looks pretty bad. But you zoom out over a 50-year time span and it looks, trends up pretty good, real steady, easy going. Blue chip companies are doing good. You look at your goal as a deer hunter and your life and what you're doing in the woods, you're going to have your seasons that might suck. You might have your days in the woods that are terrible where you have that pit in your stomach because you missed and that was the one chance you had. But over the course of a decade or two, if you keep at it, you're going to have a lot more of those better days, I think.
And Justin, I had a question for you. I know you moved from one area to another and now we're doing more of the suburban type hunting, right? Urban stuff.
Yeah, I came from Maryland, and I mean, I suburban hunted for about like 9 years. So I had a lot, and we had 3 buck tags in Maryland. So that was a game changer too. Like there were a few years I'd fill 3 buck tags, and just on top of killing 8 or 9 does. So I mean, I had constant flow of venison in the house.
I'm a big believer, and a friend of ours learned this from an old timer. And it was, if you want to get good at killing bucks, you got to get good at killing deer first, like Greg said. So the more deer you shoot, the better. I know a lot of areas and down where, Eric and Greg and I kind of live, there's seems to be more and more kind of metro opportunities and special hunts where the deer are overpopulated in these, very urban areas. As far as I don't have a lot of experience hunting, too close to neighborhoods. Down here is a little bit different from what I'm used to. So there's more neighborhood-ish kind of stuff. But if a guy's getting started and wants to kill does, right? Say somebody's listening and they're like, hey, yeah, I got to get good at killing deer. Do you think it's easier to get good at it in these metro areas where there's a lot more, but you have to deal with the hassle of people and neighbors and dying? Or does that turn a guy off? You know what I mean? Like it's a catch-22 because there's more deer, possibly easier hunting, but is that a way a new guy should go about it? What do you think?
Yes and no. I mean, it's really your preference, man, because some people look at it as like, oh, well, I don't want to hunt and have to hear all these cars, or I don't want to hunt in somebody's backyard. And it's like, if you look at it for what it is and you're enjoying it, then I think it's a plus, and yes, I think it's a lot easier to kill deer in a suburban property than it is to go into like a big public land parcel and shoot a doe. For one, they don't have as much area. Okay. They're more funneled depending on the property. But, I mean, in Maryland we could bait. And a lot of times I would only have like a 2 acre or 3 acre parcel. So, I mean, I was kind of forced to bait. Like, and I know some guys were like, oh yeah, or you're baiting a deer, you know, blah blah blah. It's like you're cheating. It's a gimme. You know, I'm not gonna say that it's not easier, because I think it is a little bit easier. But killing a mature buck in a suburban area is challenging. They're still mature deer, and if anything, they're more used to people than, you know, a deer that really hasn't been harassed by many people in like the backcountry or something. I mean, I've got experience hunting farm country. I've hunted a little bit of everything, but for shooting does, and just like if you're getting into it and you just want to, you know, hunt, let's say your grandma's, or, you know, somebody in the family that's got a ton of deer in their backyard and they got a couple acres, by all means, go do it and go plug a couple does, because you're going to have fun. I mean, I think anytime you shoot a deer, anytime you're shooting a deer with a bow, it's fun. So, I mean, you can't write it off, and you just take it for what it is. You know, if that's your goal and you want to shoot some deer, and they're still deer. I mean, they can still duck an arrow. You know what I mean?
Right. They are still deer, and that's one thing you can't take away from it. They're still a whitetail.
Mm-hmm.
They still have their senses about them. Yeah, I mean, your opportunities are greater. The deer are moving closer. You can kind of find that one sweet spot in that 3 to, like, the piece I had was a 9-acre piece, and it was the only piece I could get permission on. The rest of the people had 2.5, 3-acre pieces around, and they were okay with me retrieving deer, but they didn't want me hunting deer on that property,
Right.
on their property. So, and I had regulations too, like the police wanted to know where my stand was.
Oh yeah.
They'd go out there with a rangefinder to make sure I was 100 yards from any dwelling.
I've been there. I've been there,
Yep.
Greg. I've had so many people call the cops on me. I couldn't even tell you. And then all of a sudden, you know, I had one of the biggest deer I was after. This guy gave me permission, and like I'd literally never hunted the place because I had so many hunting spots back then. I had probably like 10 or 12 properties, and I would literally just go and put a camera in a place and check if there was a good buck. Because some of them I was like, this is definitely a core area where a big deer might be at. And then lo and behold, one of the bigger deer that I was trying to kill was in there. I go in there to do a hanging hunt, and the guy's blowing leaves in his backyard, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Going hunting. And he's like, "Well, my wife, you know, she's really not into it." And I'm like, "Well, I've already got a stand back here. Like, do you mind if I hunt like this evening?" "Yeah, but you need to get out of here." Okay, so. Man, I go back there. I see the deer. He like cuts me off at like 50 yards and skirts around, and I'm like, like it was heartbreaking, because you know you put all that effort in, and you're like, there he is, but good luck, you know. And none of the other people gave me permission. I mean, I knocked on like 20 doors in this place to try and kill that deer, but every once in a while it does happen, you know.
Yeah, so it is a big difference for you and where you're at now. Another life shit changes.
I love it.
Punches.
Yeah.
We could life lesson this thing all damn day, man.
No, yeah, definitely, man. It really was. I think this year was my biggest mental grind. I think I only saw maybe like 4 bucks, and they were like maybe like 100 inches or something. Like they weren't big deer, and I was just beating myself up, man. Like I'm walking 1.5 miles deep a couple times on public to try and, you know, hunt like a core area with good rubs and scrapes and everything. Never would see a deer, you know. I mean, I got lost on public land. I was so far back in there, and my headlamp died, and I like called my wife. I'm like, "Hey, using my phone as a flashlight, got 10%, might die. If I do, here, I'm sending you a pin of where I'm at. Come find me." And yeah, but then, you know, I just said to myself, I'm like, I'm going to keep hunting. It's November, and the biggest deer of my life came in this year, and I smoked him on film at like 15 yards. And it just so happens. I mean, you know, like I could have given up and been like, well, I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. But like persistence and plugging away, it's like hunt the wind, stack the odds in your favor, and just hunt. and whatever. At least try to enjoy yourself. But
Now,
Chris,
that's
Whitman's
in
just come.
Kentucky? Is that right?
He's in Kentucky now.
Yeah.
Now, Justin, I don't know. I know that Kentucky used to allow baiting. Do they still allow baiting on public lands or no?
I don't know about public lands. I really around here, man. I'll only bait a lot of times just to like see what's around. Now that I got like so much property, I really prefer not to hunt over bait. It's like more or less I try to just use it as like a scouting strategy every once in a while. But you know, a lot of guys, you're really competing because a lot of guys have feeders and everything else, and that's like the main gig. And it's good and bad because a lot of guys only hunt during rifle because they only got one tag, right? So they're like, well, I'll feed the deer all year long, and then I'll go out there on opening day and shoot something. And it works out. And like, whatever, more power to those guys. What gets me, you know, what gets me excited is hunting deer on their natural terrain, and like it's just more enjoyable. I really anymore now. I just love like the cat and mouse and the chess match of finding a good buck and killing him. And sometimes, you know, you can just get lucky and they'll come right by. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's just more fun to me to hunt that way. I like mobile hunting.
And I'm not trying to drag us down a rabbit hole here talking about baiting, but it is interesting because we used to have baiting here in Wisconsin, and my family, when I started out, we would definitely bait up in the Nicolay National Forest, up close to where Eric used to hunt, and kind of everybody did it who hunted up there.
We brought
And
buckets.
I'm just curious because you know you sound like a guy who's had some experience with it. Do you? I think we could probably all agree on which one feels more rewarding to kill a big buck over. But do you think that in real time, like, is baiting more effective to kill a mature deer, or is it less effective for a mature buck?
I think it depends on the deer. If you want my honest opinion, after like a lot of times after hunting with bait, I think it puts deer on edge. I think the more mature deer that have been around and like know about corn piles know that it's not a natural thing. I mean, do you agree with that? Like from your experience, or?
I think like you said, from my experience, it's totally the personality of the deer. Because like we've had a couple deer over the years that like the bucks would just walk right in, no problem.
Oh yeah.
But most of the mature bucks always skirt way downwind, never come in. And as soon as we stopped baiting, that's when we started having way more success. But I was just curious, you know, on different part of the country, what your outlook was on it. So that's good to hear.
To an area or a spot more too. You're like, well, I put the bait here, so I'm going to hunt here. So you know, you might have a mobile setup. You're still like you're planting some sort of roots there. Remember, my dad used to put buckets of apples. I know Greg laughed when we brought apple juice. We'd spray down the trees. It's like because we thought we'd scent it up more. I don't know. You know, probably read in a magazine back then somewhere. But back to the. I just wanted to make sure we give people credit for commenting in. But Chris Whitley had mentioned he used to hunt a country club. And when it first opened inside the club, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. But then after just a few years, the deer felt the pressure just like anywhere else. And they seemed to know when they were hunting, you know, being hunted. They just totally turned into deersy deer, where they just, that sixth sense was about them. And Levi said,
I think Chris is spot on with that because a lot of these suburban areas now, especially after these Seek One guys, and, you know, it became more of a thing. Like I just noticed from when I started to when I left Maryland, the difference in the amount of other hunters that were actually doing it versus when I started. Like I think I was right in the point where it was kind of a niche thing that there were other guys doing it, but not as many. So you had an advantage. And then it got to the point, man, like these big deer would come looking in the trees for you. You know what I mean? And around here, I don't see that, which is cool. I mean, which I love. I just think here I'm hunting way less pressured deer, and I came from hunting very pressured deer, you know, just from the suburbans fact. But I mean, even hunting in the farms, like, you know, the county that we lived in, it was like kind of an area where a lot of people just shot whatever. And like, that's cool. But you know what I'm saying? In areas like that, you really need to hunt a little bit different. And I just kind of got used to hunting that way, where hunting where other people aren't hunting and understanding, you know, why a deer would want to come here instead of there. And I got good. I always had a niche for picking good trees. So got lucky, and
That's a good niche to have.
yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I like to pick comfortable trees. I don't know if that really helps me with killing deer. Or you get one with a good lumbar support, and you're like, oh yeah, I can see her all day.
That's
Yeah,
like a 1 in 20 tree for success usually.
Yeah,
Right.
typically.
Depends
I
on
don't know, man. You get lucky sometimes with those split trees in a saddle too. You can just sit back and you're like, oh yeah, all right.
Success might be back that night for me, Derek. It has nothing to do with getting a deer. Oh gosh, yeah. Chris said, Levi said, what ton is hunting. It's fun. It's hunting elk and deer in Yellowstone National Park. How about that for some?
What a clown.
Yeah, and then Chris said that there was a study in Ohio, which it might be fun to go find the study, that showed that there was little to no advantage when comparing killing mature bucks over bait versus natural. Which
no, because, and I would agree with that. Not that I'm an expert on anything, but you just look at, like, you go lay scent down, you walk through an area one time where a mature buck walks through. What are the chances that buck's going to come walking through there again? Probably not the greatest. They'll walk through the area, but they're not walking where they caught the whiff of that human scent.
Right.
So then they are going to work the downwind and move around. They're not gonna walk right up to that bait pile. Not during shooting hours, that's for sure.
I used to know a guy that would sit like 40 yards on the outside of a corn pile and just wait for deer to skirt by. And he killed a couple huge deer like that. Like he would catch them maybe like 80 or 100 yards. Like he would let the does come in and eat the corn. And then these bigger bucks he'd find the trail that would be like skirting around in a thicket or whatever the situation was.
Sure.
But man, I mean, it worked for him. And I watched it. I watched him kill one day. It was pretty cool to just see how he's like, yeah. I'm like, you're not going to hunt over the corn pile. He's like, no, watch this. I'm like, okay. And sure enough, man, he came back that evening and smoked a good one. So
that perfectly illustrates the ideology of, hunting a deer where he lives versus hunting a deer where you want it to be. Because then, like I said, you're playing off of that behavior. He knows you're there. He's going to be on edge, just like you said before, Justin, versus when you scout out the sign and you get where he lives, they're not expecting it, right? That's their safe zone. And if you've done your homework and you've done it right, you slip in. You've done it on his terms instead of your own terms. And I think that illustrates it perfectly.
Yeah. I think it's way better to go hunt a deer on a first sit. I would say 90%, maybe not 90. I'd say like 3/4 of the deer I've killed have been on a first sit. Especially my biggest ones. I mean, it's just like you leave a place alone and slip in there. Like I've always been a good rut hunter because I just understand funnels and bedding areas, and I'll just get in between a bedding area and on a right wind, and that dude just comes cruising in and has no idea, and it's game over.
The gizmos and gadgets of today have made it hard for people to do the first time thing because you scout out a spot and everybody, you want to put a camera over it or you want to try a mock scrape there, and every little thing you do just takes away, like you said, and a guy realized, man, I tell my dad that all the time. I said, look on your walls, look at all the big ones. Every one is when you did not hunt that spot that year. Every one of them, without fail, at our place is the first time in. Everyone.
Right. That's why like for me, Derek, like I always loved shed hunting so much because I would find a really good hunting spot and I would already mark down like, okay, well, here's the bedding area. Here's a good trail coming out. Here's a place I could get in with a wind. I would kind of try to pick a tree, but I would mark like an area and then I'd slip in there. And a lot of times, man, like your first sit's your best opportunity. I mean, you ask anybody that's killed a lot of big deer consistently and they'll tell you.
If y'all have a little bit, I know we're like on time, but I'm good with rolling over on time a little bit here. I wanted to so folks are watching on TikTok and I can't monitor it well because it's, 10 feet from my face, but our call-in number, you can call in if you want to talk to us, 262-757-4122. I can't put it on the TikTok screen. I can't comment it on the TikTok screen, so my phone's too far away. So I'll say it one more time, 262-757-4122. or you can just jump into YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, and you can add comments in, and we'll get them there. But this is a good conversation. It's fun to have us all here kind of virtually too. It's nice to see all your faces this way. I've got to worry about Greg spilling a beer on the computer or something weird from Derek punching.
I can still try.
Yeah, you could do like
just a little bit of general horseplay. It's fine.
But literally, to anybody listening, to give credit to what Justin just said, like that is the road book to success. That's the map. Like, but you have to see that a lot. Like Justin's a guy who's spent a lot of time in the woods. So like he said, he's lucky at picking trees. He's not lucky. He's just seen enough spots where he knows where it's going to work. But when you're shed hunting and spending time in the off season, I do the same thing, man.
Yeah.
Find that spot, right? You look around on the map. Okay, where are they coming from? You figure it out. Every Onyx pin I drop, or every pin I drop on our new app Spartan Forge, I take a picture with my pin of the tree that I'm like, this is the setup tree. So when I come back here in 5 months, I look for the base of that tree because it's going to be in the dark or whatever.
Definitely.
And exactly like you said, your first time in, you kind of learn, like, is this going to be good opening weekend? Is this going to be good in the middle of October, or is this a rut spot? And the more spots you throw it at, you try, the more you figure that out. And then you get to the point where you look at a tree in an area and probably go, oh man, first week in November, that tree wind, that's going to be money.
Yeah. I mean, I had like one of the best sits of my life last year. Okay, so I moved to Kentucky, right? And I'm like, I have no history whatsoever. And I told my wife, I'm like, well, I'm looking around on Onyx, and I'm like, that looks like a killer spot. And I literally put a pin just on Onyx, and I was like, that's where I want to be. I walk in there, dude, giant rubs everywhere. And I'm like, all right, game on. I saw like 17 deer and the buck that I killed last year, but I let him walk like kind of like a dumbass, but whatever, for me, moving to Kentucky, you see all these giant bucks and you're like, do I want to kill 130 or do I want,
Yeah, do it.
I know, right? I know. It was so awesome, man, because, I had a big deer at my house, and he was definitely bigger than the one that I had shot, but I kind of blew it on him. He caught me. He blew at me, which I don't know if you guys been blown at by like a really big buck before?
Just once this year. Otherwise, I've never had a buck blow at me. I've busted them
out
of their bed.
Tell me the tone of that blow is not different than anything you've ever heard.
Oh, it's different because I compare it to a freight train. Like I got blown at opening day. Like I got down in the dark, and it was a certain buck that I've been trying to catch up with for 2 years now. I'm fairly confident it was him, but I could be wrong. But it's the difference between a buck blowing at you and a doe. Oh yeah, and
this thing, the tone of this thing was. I was like, oh shit.
I was
I picked the wrong tree today, boys.
Yep, I was at the base of my tree, and I did too. I picked the wrong tree. I should have picked the tree that I had set a camera in. I should have picked it just a little bit further in from the transition edge, and I literally had just gotten down. It was dark. I could barely see my hand in front of my face. I was grabbing my last climbing stick off the tree, and I dropped one. I had one. I tucked it in my armpit, and I had the other two sitting on the ground. And it slipped out of my hand and went cling, and that's when he couldn't have been more than 30 yards away from me. He stomped, and he blew. And he, came towards me and blew again.
Yeah,
and then it
made
it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he ran off about 40 yards and stomped one more time and blew again.
Yep, it's literally the same exact thing that buck that I was trying to kill. He did. It was pretty wild.
Yep, it was all over. I was pretty well screwed.
But I never
did see him.
It's not cool at the moment, but now looking back at it, I'm like, that was actually a pretty cool experience. I mean,
it was a cool experience because at least they kind of let me know I was in the ball game, or I was close.
Yeah, I've really rolled the dice on this one, and it was funny, man. Just going back to Suburban, this deer was bedded up right on the edge of this guy's backyard. And I said, walking in, I'm like, man, I don't want to hunt. The wind's cutting towards this guy's house. And I was like thinking, I'm like, oh, he's probably bedded over here, and I'm just going to cut him off. And by the time he gets downwind of me, it'll be too late, and I'll plug him. Well, no, I was wrong. He was like 50 yards on the other side, just on the other side of that ridge. And when he blew at me, I went over there and looked, and I found his bed right there. And I'm like, damn it. Like, but hey, it's hunting, you know.
It's part of learning.
Right.
You got to goof up, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just keep going. You take another stab at it.
Yep.
We do have a caller if you guys, if we can manage 5 people, one of which we can't see. So welcome to the shit show, everybody. We have with us on the line Luke Oswald with Publicly Challenged Podcast. I got to spend time with Luke down in Kentucky. Luke, you got cops rolling up after you there? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm in my wife's office right now, and
don't worry.
We're in town. Don't worry, they're not coming after me.
They all say, Luke.
And cats and cops.
It's pretty serious out there. There's 5 cops that just rolled by.
Jeez, anybody driving think they're getting pulled over when they're listening to this tomorrow.
Funny.
Luke, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, what's up, boys?
Howdy.
What's going on?
Yeah, no, I had a similar experience, kind of like Greg's experience. My target buck this year that I was chasing after, I freaking set up. It was a preset. Got up in the stand. It was like 5 minutes before legal shooting light, and kind of the same instance. A smaller buck came by. I turned to look at him, and as I turned to look at him, guess what? The bigger buck was behind him, and he stopped and he snorted at me. And I'd never heard a buck snort like that before. And he snorted at me, and he took off running like a rocket. And one other time I saw him, and he skirted me at 60 yards, and that was the only 2 times I actually got on that shooter.
Can anybody tell me what it sounds like?
Honestly,
it's a deeper sound.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like
someone.
Eric, it sounds like this. Oh shit. Kind of what it sounds like right there.
Yes, it is.
You know you messed up. When you hear it, you know you messed up.
Yeah, it's very distinct.
That's exactly what I said too. I'm like, oh shit.
A little deeper than that, but that's about
right.
Yeah, it's a little deeper than that.
Comes up in slow motion. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Mine was a little bit of a guttural growl afterwards too. It was like a real deep, and then it was like brr, and then he just took off. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh no. If I would have just held still, and he came from the complete opposite direction I was anticipating him to come. I mean, so there's like a creek, a road, some timber, and a tree line that he would have had to follow to get to me. And sure enough, I thought he was coming from beds, but he must have been up and just cruising early or something. And he came from the total opposite direction, or he went and got water or something and started coming that way. But it was the complete opposite compass direction where I thought he was coming. And he had to get my wind too. There was no way he couldn't have, but it was screwed up.
I feel like they always do that, man. Like most of the time they come from the spot you're least expecting them to come from.
Why are they so good at that, man?
Yeah. It's like a sixth sense, you know.
It is a sixth sense. That's how they stay alive.
Right. Even when you got a good wind and they come in there, they're like, something ain't right.
Yeah, I know how to screw up this guy's day.
Yeah.
In the other direction.
Well, Luke,
there's an okayest hunter in here. We're gonna get out of here now.
Yep. Exactly.
And then you will baritone blow.
What's up, Derek?
I was going to say, Luke, at least your buck took off like a bat out of hell and didn't tease you. I think the last time I got blown at by a big one, he was like 50 yards away. He blew, and then he stomped, and he did that little thing where they like high stepped and wagged their tail off and kind of shook his little butt as he took off. I was like, you bastard, you're going to rub it in like that?
It's like when the fish jumps after it breaks the line or, gets off the hook and it jumps afterwards. You're like, what the fit is over, you little a-hole? Why you got to give me the tail? Chris Whitley said, the little bucks can fool you, though. Heard a hot chase going on. Had a nasty, deep-sounding grunt. Listened to it for 30 minutes before I saw the buck. Ended up being a spike.
He was just an overachiever.
I actually did get to see the deer, unfortunately. I got to watch him blow at me, which was pretty terrible. So there was no mistaking it. I was like, oh, no. That's a big deer.
I would like to have seen mine blow at me, but the thing is I've kicked that buck out of 2 different beds in that area. So he just looked at me and said,
He
"Oh,
knew.
you again?
He knew
Really?
it. Greg's in
Yeah.
there, like,
Yeah,
I know you. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, I'm out. 3rd time's not the charm.
This guy's trying to snuggle with me in my bed.
Yeah, I'm not having it.
It's gonna be a big spoon, a little spoon. Well, thanks, Luke, for calling in. Appreciate you picking up the phone line there and giving us a shout. It's always good to hear from people that are listening. I was gonna say something stupid a second ago. Well, it's probably better that I forgot it. My brain, dude, the brain fog stuff is real. I like had all sorts of fun things lined up to say after all sorts of comments, and they're just fleeting, every one of them. So I'm glad you guys are here to Slack tonight. And I got a tablet and a phone and a mixer and an empty glass. That's probably a problem.
Yeah, you just have something to do with it. I don't know.
the bourbon or the scotch will help. You know,
yeah, usually.
When I was in Kentucky doing the interview with Waddell, they're like, "Yo, do you have everything you need?" I said, "No, I don't have a freaking glass of bourbon. I'm
right.
I'm gonna do."
Well, what was up? I mean, I seen a couple guys drinking beer. Was it like you can bring beer in there or what?
I don't know. I think there were a couple people with their own coolers handing out beers. I know I took a Leinenkugels or a Leinenkugels. No, it was a Coors. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I'll take a freaking beer. You know.
Right. Yeah. I was kind of looking for one. I'm not gonna lie, but we had a great time, man. I hung out at the Lone Wolf booth for a while and we walked around.
Were you with Byron?
Yeah, I got to hang out with him for a little bit, man. He's awesome. He's such a good dude.
Yeah, he's nice. It's funny. I went over there and finally talked with him in person, and I've talked to him more times than I can count on the phone and chat him up and all this and that. And then I met him in person. He's like, "Man, I feel like I already know you." I was like, "Yeah, the same. We've obviously met, but it was this." He's like, "I haven't met you yet in person." I was like, "No, dude, this is the first time we've met."
His energy's just like, I don't know. It's like ages, you know. Like he's talking to you, you're like, "Yeah, man, hell yeah, oh, all right." Like he's like, "Oh, dude, is this your first ATA? Oh, you're gonna freaking love it, man. I'm telling you." I'm like, "Oh man, I'm already excited. I don't even know what I'm getting into, but I'm excited to go in here."
He's genuinely a good dude, and he is super excited about anything whitetail.
He's listening, so you know, like, he's not a good dude.
Yep. Yeah, I'm waiting for him to tune in the comments. Feel like,
earlier, I think he popped.
He dropped a comment. He probably popped out. He's probably putting his kid to bed, but he, we tried doing some filming for him this year.
We didn't try. You did?
Well, no, I didn't do a very good job, but I got some clips into him, so he was much appreciated to it, and we tried to help each other out, and he's a good guy.
Yes, like 10 clips of me going to Quick Trip before every hunt.
He's going Quick Trip. We don't even have that down here in Ohio and Kentucky.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Kentucky, Eric? Did you get to go to the bars or anything?
I got some decent dinners. I stayed at the Galt House downtown. I really wanted to go on a river gambling boat. I didn't do that. I just went out and got dinners with folks. I didn't do the whole.
You didn't take a shit with the door open and make beef jerky, did you?
I didn't get maced in the face. I didn't see any like nothing like that, man. I was just like, you know what? I was pretty enthused about trying my first ever. What's the Derby pie? I tried the Derby pie. That was really exciting for me. I had a nice burger. I had a good steak. That was it for me. It was like a vacation for me, honestly.
You're a good, wholesome family man, Clark.
Yeah. Just happy to have a bed to myself. But lately it's been like my wife and 3 kids. So it's like falling off the bed. Everyone stole my covers. I was like, this is good. I get a whole bed to myself, you know.
Are you guys going to go to the Harrisburg show?
No, OKS Hunter is exhibiting at the open season show in the Wisconsin Dells. We're going to dip our toe in the water for that one. Greg's building the booth. If that show goes well, then we're going to crank up and do a whole bunch more. Cause at that point we'll have the setup, we'll have the system put in place for merch and everything.
That's awesome.
So we'll see. We don't know what to expect. We've never done it. So everyone says good things, but you know, it's probably different for everybody, I imagine.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure you guys will have fun. Just hang out, bring some beers.
Yeah, we'll podcast. We'll shoot the breeze of people. I was gonna say shoot the poop. Whatever. We'll
Only you.
I didn't say shit. So then
that man called the shit poop.
Oh, dude, I was waiting for somebody to drop it. I was
I'll put
waiting.
it out, boot, Harold, or whatever. Well, I think, honestly, Justin, thanks for hanging out with us, man. You'll have to be a repeat, and you can call in anytime.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate y'all having me. Seriously.
You
Yeah,
bet.
and you're in Kentucky, so our friend Brad is in Kentucky, and a few others, Braden and the folks over at Go Wild. Are you on Go Wild?
No, I don't know anything about it.
You need to go check it out.
Okay.
They're sponsors of ours, they're friends of ours, but check out, if you go to, I don't know if you have an Android or an iPhone, it doesn't matter, but Go Wild, if you Google, I think it's Time to Go Wild.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Go Wilds out there, but their logo's like a GW. It looks really cool. It's a social platform for just hunters and outdoorsmen and women, and you're not going to get censored for stuff. I'm not trying to give them a big plug or anything, but
No, that's cool. Yeah, I'll check it out, man. I remember somebody mentioning something about that. It's uncensored, and
they're right in Kentucky, man. So it's kind of neat. If that's where you are, you might actually get to see some of those folks. It's a cool space.
Right on, man.
Follow us, because then we can talk to you. But you can set up your gear, so you can outfit yourself on their platform with the stuff you're actually using. So other people might be like, "Hey,
yeah, you can do a full gear review. So if you like a certain arrow, certain bow, release, whatever, you can put it on there. If they have it on there, or you can enter it in there. It's a little bit of work to enter new stuff in, but trail camera, whatever it is, pair of socks, you can put it in there. But we're all on there. I mean, on my account, you're going to see everything from bluegills to squirrel fishing, or squirrel fishing. Have another beer. Yeah, that's a new sport, by the way. Squirrel fishing.
I'm there for the bush
Check it
lights
out.
and squirrel fishing.
Derek's game for some squirrel fishing.
Hell yeah, let's go, buddy.
Let's do it.
Podcast, the Squirrel Fishing podcast. I think
squirrel fishing. Yeah, buddy.
Something new, Greg. You didn't even know.
We did. I did. It only took 16 ounces of an IPA to do it. I haven't eaten since lunch.
Forgive me.
There you go. Drink another one of them. You'll be good to go.
Oh, I'll be good to go.
Justin, I'm going to have to follow you on Instagram or wherever you do all your stuff, and you'll have to message me when you find the tree. You just send that one picture. I'll know, and I'll share one back with you. We'll just
yes, sir. Definitely.
That way.
It was great meeting you, Derek. Definitely, man. I was going to look you up once I got off here, and we'll start chatting every once in a while, man.
Cool.
Good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and Luke says I should zoom in myself. Why the hell would I want to do that, Luke? I can do that, though. Look at this fancy technology. Ready? Here we go. And I have officially zoomed in on myself.
Tighter. A little tighter.
Fancy.
Could do tighter.
Right in time for the people that hung around till the end.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Those are our true loyal fans.
That's right.
I'm going to end the live broadcast. If you guys want to hang out here for a second, we can. Otherwise, anyone that's tuned in, adios. We'll see you in podcast land.
Hey, and don't forget to catch your deer and fish your squirrels.
Don't forget your release.